Hey, man, it's Dukes and Bell. Happy Friday, everybody. I know however you're accessing this, you're probably getting ready for Winter Storm Fern as it moves across the country. As we said yesterday, and we've been talking about it all week, no matter where you are, however you're checking us out, man, be safe. Make sure that, you take care of all the things you need to take care of. And hopefully everybody will be fine. And we'll talk to you guys, next week. And it won't be as bad as they anticipate. With that said, it is Friday, man, and we got a lot to chop up. Big O's here, Day, our executive producer, Mike. We are still in the midst of trying to figure out who this GM is going to be. And real quick, Day, you said they've got, I think it's 4 interviews today that the Falcons are going to have regarding their general manager.
They'll interview ex-Jets GM Joe Douglas, Chiefs assistant GM Mike Bradway, and then Ian Cunningham will be in, as well as Josh Williams of the 49ers. Of course, Williams and Cunningham, they were part of the president interview round. So I know we were talking offline, kind of to Oren's point, man, the fact that they've already talking to both of them, despite it being for another job, you kind of have to wonder if they already liked what they heard from them and already had them in the back of the mind, one of them in the back of their minds as the candidate for this job.
Yeah, Mike, and look, the GM is a different circumstance than the head coach. I think we all pretty much know these head coaching candidates and have an opinion on them one way or the other. These general managers, man, these candidates, these guys are hitting. They're in closet doors, and we don't see them like we do these other coaches. So it's hard to project who the right fit is. So that's why we're not toting or celebrating any of these guys per se to say this is the guy we need to have. I think the one thing we all agree on, fellas, and you guys tell me, we want a guy from a winning organization. That's the main thing, right, Mike?
Right. I mean, look, you could look at a guy, and we talked about yesterday, these are not household names unless you've got some sort of rotisserie league or fantasy league for GMs and personnel departments. But Lipford, the guy from the Texans did some amazing work the last couple of years, taking that trade equity from the draft picks they got from the Browns, dumping Deshaun Watson. Lipford, that's a guy that might be a good fit because he's not exactly high on the totem pole. He's not the highest guy with the Texans. A guy like Ian Cunningham sounds like as an assistant GM, he's ready to be a GM. Now, why do I say that? Because Matt Ryan, I still think is going to have the loudest voice, even though Matt said, hire a coach, hire a GM, let him cook. The perception around the league, fair or unfair, or maybe it's been mischaracterized, is that Matt is calling the shots. So would somebody take a lateral move as a GM or somebody who's maybe, a personnel director for like college scouting or something? Would that be a logical fit? I don't know. I'd like one voice. We've seen it in the last 72 hours. All these coaches that got sideways with their general managers. It's as old as the NFL. Nobody ever seems to be on the same page unless you're in a really, truly winning organization. Howie Roseman runs the Eagles. Ozzie Newsome ran the Ravens. Now John Harbaugh fancies himself a personnel guy. Rich McKay, for all the crap he took in Atlanta, guys, he built that Buccaneers championship team. Tony Dungy just couldn't get over the top. Gruden cashed in at the right time. Then Gruden blew it by all the bad personnel moves. And coaches always think they're personnel guys.
Yeah.
So I like running this thing.
Yeah. And look, if you're going to ask me right now, if this hire happens over the weekend or, Monday or whenever, and this person is going to be at the presser for Kevin Stefanski on Tuesday, which right now that's what it's scheduled for. That could obviously move depending on the weather and all that stuff. I'm not going to be surprised about any of the guys that we've been talking about. I just want to know, again, to Mike's point, what this true structure is going to look like and what kind of voice is this guy going to have in the room. If Matt's got 70% and the head coach has 20%, does this guy have 10%? I mean, that's what I'm wondering about. But we'll figure it out. We'll talk more about these guys because it is interesting to see the kinds of candidates they're interviewing for this head coaching job. Fellas, look, the college football playoff word is, and we're going to get more into this today, and we got a bunch of guests, by the way. B-Mac's going to join us from CBS Sports to help us break down AFC, NFC championship games. We're going to head back to Cleveland. Aditi Kinkabala is going to join us. She is amazing and does good stuff for the Browns and is inside of that organization, so she is a person in the know. We'll talk to her about all this Kevin Stefanski stuff, and then we'll talk to Steve Koonin as well. But the college football playoff, word is they're staying at 12, Mike. I'm a little surprised about this. I thought they'd be really pushing for 16 this upcoming season.
Now, are we going to waste our time with two teams from the power of 5 or whatever? I mean, don't need Tulane, don't need James Madison, didn't need Boise State a year ago.
All right, well, wait, let me
Let's
ask
get
you.
rid of
So
that.
would you rather have had who? Notre Dame and
Notre
Texas?
Dame,
Who?
Notre Dame and Vanderbilt.
Okay.
Or, I mean, Texas kind of blew it, and they had one loss too many. But I think this year, I think you could have made the argument for Vandy, and certainly, like we all know, Notre Dame, Crimea River. They just, the way they handled it didn't endear themselves to college football fans afterwards. But Notre Dame and Vandy would have been my choices. Like Notre Dame and Vandy would have showed up. I mean, I know James Madison scored garbage points in the second half against Oregon, and Tulane, it was an exact replica of the first time they played Ole Miss. It was a nothing game.
Yeah. The Notre Dame thing is interesting. Dede, I want to get your opinions on this. Because I think they get the way they responded by not going to any game, any bowl game, no playoff, nothing. I think that actually was a move that's going to help them moving forward.
Right.
I think people are going to be a little bit on edge to leave Notre Dame out next year.
Well, aren't they locked in now? If they're in the top 12
now, they got that clause or whatever that they're in the top whatever of the CFP. They get an automatic entry. So
okay, so here's the deal, though. Are you willing to say that that's going to be the case? See, what's interesting is for me, the 12, 13, 14, 15 teams now, right? And look, if Notre Dame goes undefeated, obviously that's a different story. Problem was this year they had 2 losses. Are they going to have 2 losses next year? And really, how much of this does the strength of schedule come into play? To Mike's point about them not being linked to a real conference, just being on the fringe, I'm not going to say that they're automatically in, or Dede because of the 12, 13, 14 thing. And if they had 2 losses again, I'm not willing to put them in just because they backed out this year.
That's why the move to 16, though, probably would have been better this year than 12 because there's going to be some team that's going to be sitting out there on the fringe looking at Notre Dame and going like, hey, our resume is much better than theirs. But because of who they are and what they got, that little stipulation or whatever, they got to get in over us because they're in that final 12, 13, 10, whatever it is. So there's going to be there might be a Power 5 team this year that gets locked out just because of Notre Dame and what they are. And that might push it even further. The thing that was crazy to me was that they couldn't find the middle ground, I guess. It wasn't 16, but the Big Ten pushed it for 24. Like, I don't know we're ready for that yet. No. And maybe if that was the thing that kind of pushed it away from 16, but at some point or another, like you're gonna start squeezing out those group of 5 schools even more now. And I think 16 kind of makes that happen.
But wait, why, guys? Why are we giving Notre Dame this preferential treatment? Why is it that? Why are they getting this?
No, because it sucks. I don't believe in it. This should be a meritocracy, but they got a $50 million contract. They got a legacy. That's the NBC deal. And they have just been at the forefront of college football, whether they deserved it or not. I would call bullshit on it and say you've got to earn it. But Notre Dame brings eyeballs. We don't give a shit, but a lot of folks around the country in the metropolitan East Coast, the Midwest, still want to watch Notre Dame. And so again, the way they handled it, like take our ball and leave, was complete nonsense. Yes. But they still bring eyeballs to the sport. And Notre Dame would bring more viewership than James Madison play at Oregon.
Okay, that part is true. I hate the preferential treatment because what O is saying is right. There will be Power 5s that deserve to be in that might get squeezed out this upcoming season. Dede, what do you think, man?
Well, I was going to say, I think this is a year where their strength of schedule really might screw them if they are one of those teams that somehow end up with 2 losses. They're not playing anybody, guys.
Correct.
Right now, I think they've got Wisconsin, Michigan State, Miami, SMU,
Michigan State,
Boston.
Yeah, the Sparty. Go Sparty.
And then, of course, just the tip in the ACC.
Yeah, and remember, they dumped the USC game.
Right. They wouldn't move their game up like a month.
Right. So I don't know, man. I think they may have screwed themselves, and honestly. And then the problem with this, the expansion is the Big Ten. The Big Ten wants more teams in, and so them trying to push for 24 teams. SEC is like, look, we'll do 16. We're down with 16, which to me, that's the happy medium. I think you don't need more than 16. No, but the Big Ten, they want 24 because that gives them an opportunity to get more teams in. But if we're honest, outside of Michigan, whenever they're on, Ohio State, like, who are we really talking about in that conference?
Well, Oregon, like I said, Oregon's perennial now. USC may or may not get their stuff together. With Lincoln Riley, it's time to hit the go button there. Indiana was the great Cinderella story. I'll stop you in the middle of the argument, Dede. Just forget the little kids. Sorry, you can have a conference, whatever the championship, and pair up with the 1AA and do that. And give Tulane and James Madison a bye and let everyone else play their level to them. I don't need those guys in the championship. There's more room for an extra Big Ten. Keep it at 12 because you're making the regular season meaningless. And also the conference championship games, Carl. You and I have talked about that. I mean, there's no way to rope those in. You can't have a one-loss SEC team eliminated because they lose their conference championship, so you can't fold them into the playoffs either.
Yeah, I said Power 5, it's 4, but I don't think that moving to 16, I think 12 is the right. I really do, and
right,
because it puts some urgency on being one of the 12. If it's 24, and this is the problem with the NCAA tournament, but we've accepted it.
Right.
There's no urgency to be 69 or team 70, right? I mean, you can get in. When I put a limit on 12 and say, I'm taking the 12 best, regardless of what we think, and we can debate all this, there's some urgency there. Day 24, ridiculous. I think 16 even expands it to a point where all we're talking about, let's be real, is 2 more SEC teams and 2 more Big Ten teams.
2 more Big Ten teams.
That's
exactly.
all we're talking about.
And maybe one more ACC team.
Right? So, and if I'm the ACC, I want to expand because I feel like I'm getting squeezed out, right? I mean, we want some more run. It's something we'll talk about with you guys today, starting at 2 on 92.9 The Game. It's Dukes and Bell, guys. It's Behind the Curtain. Thanks for being here. However you're accessing us, whether it's Twitch and Twitter or YouTube, however you're checking us out, Insta Live. We got a lot to chop up today. Real quick, just your initial thoughts on these playoff games, man. Look, I've been looking at this stuff. We got our picks today. All right, we'll pick 3 games, or actually 3 segments, over, under, or the game itself, and we'll continue with our pick segment. But guys, I must be missing something. This Broncos thing is mind-boggling to me, and I'm a little bit afraid, Mike. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm thinking I may go Broncos just because there's something fishy and weird about this damn number. Vegas is rarely wrong, and when they are, it's one of those obscure situations where like it kind of came out of the blue. Look at these NFL games all season. Look at these playoff games, and they're telling us that the Broncos are going to stay within a touchdown. Like I'm just like. So I don't know, man. We'll get into it today, but we're going to break this down. I keep like riding the Patriots, and I'm like, something is weird here.
4.5 is the number right now. And look, I think the Broncos defense is great. Texans defense is maybe a little bit better. And Drake had some wobbles. Drake may have some wobbles against the Texans. He wobbled against us. I mean, he still is prone to making some mistakes in his second year in the NFL. And I know it's on the road in Denver, the altitude, et cetera, but I just don't know how they're going to score with Jarrett Stidham. Because Vrabel's going to say, I'm going to take your run game away, and Jarrett Stidham, you got to beat me. And the most passes you've thrown in a season is 83. We looked it up yesterday. So I'm with Carl. I mean, Vegas is there for a reason. Those buildings don't go away, and people fill them up, and they lose money every week. But I don't know how the Broncos stay within 4.5 with Jarrett Stidham.
Yeah, and look, the other game obviously is the one, right? I mean, the AFC game, they know each other. They're in the same division. Seattle's beaten them twice already this year against the Rams. 2 amazing games. If you didn't see it, I think it was week 11, week 16. Great games. I expect that game to be close and come down to the last possession, and whoever has it, we'll see if Sam Darnold can get it done or Matthew Stafford. But this game at 3 is going to be really interesting. So we'll dive into that today too, man, and we'll talk to Steve Koonin. Hawks in Phoenix, is that right? They play the Suns tonight. They play the Suns tonight. So we'll get the latest with Steve Koonin on where this thing is going. And the reason why this is a big deal, guys, is because yesterday we mentioned it at the end of the show. Rich Paul basically said he wants Anthony Davis traded out of Dallas by the trade deadline. And people are already linking us because we need to make a move to go get a hurt Anthony Davis. So maybe Steve Koonin can give us some more insight. But remember, Mike, he said they weren't looking to maybe do a deal at the trade deadline, which is silly anyway. I
don't know. Who's my big guy I want from the Clippers?
Zubac.
The problem is Clippers are on a run. Clippers are on a heater. They're like one of the hottest teams in the NBA. So now all of a sudden they just smoked the Lakers. So now they're not going to be wanting to trade him to the Celtics or us or anybody. So then we just saw Jamar Jackson. We need a big man. Go for Jamar Jackson. If Memphis is going to trade Morant, they're resetting. So go for Jamar. I mean, anything, Carl.
Jalen, yes.
I said Jamar. Jalen Jackson from the Grizzlies. Anything but Anthony Davis. I don't want to see a guy in a suit, with that contract hit too. Why we got a young nucleus, a young core. Hell, I'd rather roll the dice and try to find a big man in the draft than do that.
I agree. And by the way, I saw just a side note. Asa Newell was down with the G League earlier this week, and he played a lot of minutes, and he's got a lot of promise, but he needs a lot of work. And I know there are a lot of Georgia fans like, why isn't Asa Newell playing? He needs some work, man. I mean, to see him in a full game and play the amount of minutes he played the other night with the Skyhawks, which is the G League team, I was like, okay, I kind of get why maybe Quinn has been a little bit reluctant to give him some more minutes, even though he's seen some time up there. Point is, the young big guys that we have, whether it's Mo Gay or Asa Newell, some of these guys they're not it. They're not there.
And either they're too skinny. They're too skinny.
Yeah,
right.
They're not big enough.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you guys this. I know we got to go, but I don't know, man. Giannis seems very, very unhappy, and it sounds like that relationship is over. Is there any reason
you're giving up half the team? You're going to give up half the team to get him.
A lot, man.
That's the only issue.
You're giving up Jalen Johnson. You're giving up Jalen Johnson for that.
You're going to do that, and you're probably giving up your first pick, which we are talking about. That's
they want that Pelicans pick, Carl.
May set up the franchise for the long term. This is a really good draft.
That's why y'all know my favorite word.
Oh, don't do it.
It's time to settle.
We've been settling for our entire 5 years now. We'll be settling 8 years with the Falcons. That'll be 5 with the Hawks of playing nonsense. Carl, isn't there somebody in the world built like Moses Malone that we can find?
Yeah,
we need a big ass, a big giant redwood to plant in the paint. We can't find any of those guys.
Yeah, we'll see if Steve Coonan says anything about this. Join us, man. We'll be on the day at 2. Happy Friday, everybody. Be safe. We'll talk to you on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game.